Pull EdTech from schools now. In his report to Congress, cognitive neuroscientist and former teacher Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath delivers a wake-up call. Academic research going back 60 years shows that when tech enters education, learning goes down first. This is supported by data from across 80 countries. Gen Z is the first generation in over a century that are cognitively weaker than their parents, despite more schooling. Science pins the reversal on widespread digital tech adoption in classrooms around 2010. This is a blunt, evidence-driven plea to prioritize human connection over screens with real cognitive growth.
My name is Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath. I'm a former teacher turned cognitive neuroscientist who focuses on human learning. And I do not receive funding, nor have I ever, from big tech. So a sad fact our generation has to face is this. Our kids are less cognitively capable than we were at their age. Since we've been standardizing and measuring cognitive development since the late 1800s, every generation has outperformed their parents. And that's exactly what we want. We want sharper kids. And the reason for this largely has been school. Each generation spends more time in school. We use school to develop our cognition. Congratulations, you see your correlation. Until Gen Z. Gen Z is the first generation in modern history to underperform us on basically every cognitive measure we have, from basic attention, to memory, to literacy, to numeracy, to executive functioning, to even general IQ, even though they go to more school than we did. So why? What happened? What happened around 2010 that decoupled schooling from cognitive development? It can't be school. Schools basically look the same. It can't be biology. This hasn't had enough time to change.
Gen Z is the first generation in modern history to underperform us on basically every cognitive measure, even though they go to more school than we did. This flips a 130-year trend of rising cognition via schooling, highlighting a profound, unprecedented reversal, demanding urgent explanation beyond excuses.
The answer appears to be the tools we are using within schools to drive that learning. Across 80 countries, as Jean was just saying, if you look at the data, once countries adopt digital technology widely in schools, performance goes down significantly, to the point where kids who use computers about 5 hours per day in school for learning purposes will score over 2/3 of a standard deviation less than kids who rarely or never touch tech at school. And that's across 80 countries.
Kids who use computers about 5 hours per day will score over 2/3 of a standard deviation less than kids who rarely or never touch tech. Massive global effect across 80 countries shows dose-dependent harm. Pure quantity of school tech predicts lower performance.
Bring it home to the US. Let's go to the US. We have our NAEP. That's our big data. Take any state, and here's a fun experiment you can try. Take any state NAEP data, compare that to when that state adopted one-to-one technology widely, and watch what happens. The NAEP data will plateau and then start to drop. Now, as Jean said, of course, this is all correlative. What we really want is causative. To get causation, what you need is academic research, and you need mechanisms, explanations for why we're seeing what we're seeing. Luckily, we have academic research stretching back to 1962 that shows the exact same story for 60 years. When tech enters education, learning goes down.
When tech enters education, learning goes down. Stretching back to 1962, decades of consistent evidence crush claims that better implementation or training will fix it. It's structural.
Now that's research, but now we need mechanisms. Luckily, over the last about 2 decades, we've been doing a lot of work in what we call the science of learning. How do human beings learn? And we now have the clear understanding of why tech does not work for learning, and it is all biological. It's not that the tech isn't being used well enough, we haven't been trained enough, we need better programs. It's we have evolved biologically to learn from other human beings, not from screens. And screens circumvent that process. I won't go too deeply into the mechanisms, they can get boring, but just know they're there if you want to talk about them.
We have evolved biologically to learn from other human beings, not from screens. And screens circumvent that process. Learning is wired for social, embodied interaction. Screens bypass it biologically, explaining why no amount of good use overcomes the flaw.
So that leaves us with 2 options. Option 1, when you know something is wrong, do better. So we could just say, hey, mea culpa, get some of this tech out of schools, go back to what we know works, some analog methods, cool. Or 2, we could redefine our terms. We could redefine what it means to be an effective learner. I want to end with one quick story here. Think back to your childhood, to your schooling. I guarantee all of us at one point took a test on reading comprehension. And the way it looked is this. Here's a passage of about 750 words. Here are 10 to 12 questions about that passage. Most of them are inferential, not factual. They're asking you to go beyond what you just read to see what you understood. Cool. Last year, the SATs had a reading comprehension section. Here's what it looked like. Here is a single sentence of 75 words. Here is one question, fact-based, about that sentence. Next. Here is another sentence of 75 words. Here is one question about that sentence. Next. Last year, they redefined reading comprehension to mean 54 short sentences with one question about each. That is skimming. That's not reading. Why would we ever do that? Because what do kids do on computers? They skim. So rather than determining what do we want our children to do and gearing education towards that, we are redefining education to better suit the tool. That's not progress, that is surrender.
Rather than determining what we want our children to do and gearing education towards that, we are redefining education to better suit the tool. That's not progress, that's surrender. The SAT reading example exposes institutional capitulation, lowering bars to match skimming habits instead of demanding deep comprehension, a dangerous long-term betrayal of kids' potential.
So as we go through our discussion today, there's going to be a lot of talk about smartphones and social media, rightly so. But I'm the voice here to remind you that even in schools, it doesn't matter what the size of the screen is, if it's a phone, if it's a laptop, if it's a desktop, and it doesn't matter who bought it. Is it school sanctioned? Does it have the word education stamped on it? It doesn't matter. All of these things are also going to hurt learning, which in turn are going to hurt our kids' cognitive development, right at the time when we need our kids to be sharper than we are.
Enough excuses. The data screams it. EdTech screens in the classroom aren't the future. They're the thief stealing our kids' edge in attention, memory, reasoning, and raw IQ. Gen Z is the first generation sliding backwards despite more school years, more devices, and more motivation. The fix isn't more training, better apps, or balanced screen time. The fix is the courage to admit the experiment failed. We have evolved biologically to learn from other human beings, not from screens. And screens circumvent that process, rip most of EdTech out of daily learning, and return to what biology actually built us for: face-to-face, analog, human teaching that grows real cognitive muscle. Pull the plug before another generation loses ground and we can't get back. Our kids deserve sharper minds, not polished screens. Wake up, act now.